Way high. Blue Skadgies, back again. Ooh, it's been a long one today. We've already done two. But today, for this episode, I say today, it always feels weird that because it's the same day. We record them all on the same day, but they go out on a different day. Shut up, Simon. Aye. Today, we're in the kitchen. We're in the kitchen today. Mark's pointed out some interesting things I hadn't really thought of in the way that he's put them. So, it's about cooking, leaving stuff overnight, and wrapping products. Mark, which one are you starting with?
Yeah, it was obviously I used to do most of the cooking depending on where I lived, but I always remember things like before I met Anita, I would make a curry or a stew or anything in a pan, that sort of thing, and if you didn't eat it all, I would probably put a lid on it, but then I would leave it overnight. And then maybe you eat it the next day, or maybe you put it in the containers the next day, and then put it in the fridge. And then when I started living with Anita, it was clearly let it be known to me that none of that was to happen. So if you cook the food, and within an hour of eating it, it has to go out of the cooking pot and into containers ready to go in the fridge or the freezer.
As soon as it's cooled, goes in a tub, goes in the fridge.
There is no way on this earth that she would have eaten anything that was left overnight. And then, I mean, you probably know the scientific bit of it. You know, what's the probability of something happening overnight versus not happening overnight in the pan? And when does it become okay or not okay to do that?
It's different. I mean, it's not like it's roasting hot. It's just been cooked, so essentially it's sterile, right? So you haven't got any bacteria and whatnot in it.
Yeah.
You left the lid on it, so just in case there's any flies about. I mean, I don't think anyone's died from it. I mean, I do it. Sometimes if I'm wandering about and I see that the pot's gone cold, I'll then bother me arse to go and hide in the tub and put it in the fridge if I happen to be in there. But if I've not gone back in the kitchen since, or it was still hot when I went and put my plate back, and I just forgot, and it's still there in the morning, I'm like, I sometimes just pick up a fork and I'm eating it out of the cold out of the pan and going, oh, I should put this away, hide it in the freezer.
Yeah.
So it's been a question on my mind, like, should I be doing that? I mean, will there be, because of the steam off the lid, and you've left the lid on, so it's all dripping back into the thing. Or should I?
I think for me,
I've never come to any harm because of it. I think if it's the next day, you've left it overnight, fine. If you're going to start leaving it any longer, it's going to start growing stuff.
Yeah.
So if you leave it, I think the following morning seems...
I remember a famous thing. My dad used to have these New Year's Eve parties, and he used to make what he called his scoop de loop.
There's nothing more Geordie than that, is it? Scoop de loop.
Scoop de loop, and if for anyone that doesn't know what scoop de loop is, my dad used to make this pan of soup for New Year's Eve. We used to all go to the pub, and then we'd come back from the pub, and then we'd have his scoop de loop, and then have the party. But one year we came back from the pub, and we don't know what happened, but when he started to heat the pan up, it smelled like it had fermented. There was this alcoholic fermented smell coming from it, and it had to be binned. We couldn't eat it. And we don't know if something happened or somebody, poured something in it. But that sort of, we'd left that pan of scoop de loop for a few hours and then got the pub and come back and nobody ate it. And so that was...
I suppose if it had some sort of active ingredient in it, it's not stable, right? So if someone had poured something in, thinking, I'll freshen this up. No, you've just added some sugary stuff in there, and all sorts of stuff's going to go on and react with whatever else is put in there. So I mean, some things are going to go stale. Some things are going to react with the oxygen in the air. It's the oxygen that causes the reaction.
I think sometimes when I look at those situations about leaving the pan overnight, some of it was related to laziness of not wanting to clean the pan.
It'll be reet.
Somebody will do it tomorrow, which wasn't going to be me. Yeah, So there was the laziness element about leaving the pan over. Where are you on leaving dishes overnight to steep?
Aye. Aye.
Doesn't
I
happen.
mean,
Doesn't happen.
well, I'm not one for, as soon as I finish my dinner, go and wash everything up.
Yeah.
Nah. I wash it. I wash my plate just before I use it again.
Yeah.
So when I set everything up in the air fryer, I get me plate from last night, which I've scraped, into the bin if there was anything left. And I drop it in the sink, run some cold water on it, leave it to steep whilst my food's cooking. And by the time I come back, anything that was on the plate is sort of softened or dissolved. And then when it comes to actually washing it, it's no effort. So it takes less water to wash it, less detergent to wash it.
Yeah.
And then I leave it on the drainer whilst I'm getting everything out of the air fryer and sorting out maybe butter and bread or warming up some beans while it's sort of drying off. But there, I'm not sure if that story would change if I was living with someone.
Yeah.
But
Again,
when I'm on my own, I'm like, well, it's just. I mean, I use this. I don't always wash my knife and fork. I'll sometimes just give them a wipe,
yeah. I think
depending on what I've had to eat.
what probably frightened me was Anita telling me the story of her boyfriend when we first met. They used to do Sunday dinner, and they used to do roast potatoes in the roast potato pan. And I'm going to come on. I'm going to come on to the subject about tinfoil in a minute. But the guy he wouldn't clean the roast potato tin. So Anita said, "Well, you're not getting roast potatoes next week," and he didn't really understand what she meant. And when the next week he found the roast potato tin at the end of the garden, he realised he wasn't getting any roast potatoes because she threw it, and that's probably one of the stories that set our relationship up. That meant, I have to clean up as I go. So I learned that pretty quickly. But what was interesting about that is she taught me. So you've got an oven pan. Most of them are non-stick now, but even then, she taught me to line the baking tray with tinfoil. So I line the baking tray with tinfoil so that when you've finished, you can easily clean the baking tray.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I used to do that at one point. Especially if I wanted to keep some of me cooking stuff good, I would line it. But it really depended on what I was cooking. Then eventually, I've stopped doing it because I don't want to buy loads of tinfoil.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's So no, and when it comes to that, I just steep it, and you steep it in hot soapy water, and all of the stuff just lifts. So you don't end up spoiling your non-stick stuff or scratching it or what have you. Just let the water do its work.
Yeah, I think there's two schools of, well, there's many schools of thoughts, but one of them is, a few years ago, baking trays were so cheap that you're only paying £2 for it or whatever. You could use it as a weapon.
It doesn't matter what you do though. I mean, your baking tray is eventually going to go brown, whatever you do. Yeah. Because the oil vaporizes and it's circulating around the oven, and it's going to stick over time to the underside or the sides. So you're never going to keep it permanently clean unless you're willing to sit it in some degreaser on a regular basis, or that oven bright stuff. You're going to end up with fat or grease on it somewhere.
So here was one: tinfoil and cling film. So there's nothing in our fridge that has been opened that hasn't either got cling film or tinfoil on it. So there's nothing in our fridge. There's nothing in our fridge that hasn't got something on it. Now, at which point is it appropriate to use tinfoil, or which point is it appropriate to use foil, or vice versa?
I just bought some cheap plastic tubs that seal. So
yeah,
I put everything in there, and then you can air seal them. You can get those ones with a little hole in the top, and you push the button and it sucks all the air out, because it's the oxygen that allows the metabolization of whatever's in there and causes stuff to grow in it and for it to go off. So if you can suck that out, it'll not last forever, but it'll last a bit longer. Yeah, so I put it in sort of airtight tubs because I don't want to have this throwaway culture of loads of unrecyclable cling film, loads of there was a tin foil. It's reams and reams of this stuff just being used up just to cover some food. I know you've got to use tin foil in things like cooking roasts and whatnot, because you're meant to cover it first and then take it off. I've stopped doing that. I just leave it uncovered throughout the whole process and make it like it go caramelised and crispy on the top. And if my mum ever, oh yeah, take this home, and she wraps a bit of the Sunday roast in 9 foot of cling film. Just pulls it out. There you go. Just wrap that up and folds it, and then gets another bit and wraps it around. Well, just in case it drips.
Yeah.
It's not going to drip out of that. So I've just taken to keeping that, and I'll reuse it. I've even washed some of it if it's got a bit too messy after I've done a roast or cooked something in it, or if I've put something in it to keep in the fridge. But I went to JD Sports of all places. I was a Sports Direct.
Yeah.
And they just had these plastic tubs. Bit like a nesting doll sort of thing. They had all these different sized tubs on the inside. And I just used them. And what's fascinating is when you put certain sauces in, how it changes the colour of the plastic. You think, what the hell was in that? It's stained the bottom of the box. What's that about? Especially when you use Knorr cooking sauces. I learned that in Germany.
Yeah, don't put it in the microwave.
The Knorr cooking sauces in Germany. I don't know if their regulations are different over there, but the amount of the stuff I tried to make some excuse for gravy while I was over there with some of the Knorr cooking sauces and little jelly pots and things. I did in me plastic jug to melt it into the gravy just to make sure I had it thick enough. Poured it out. Just this orange stain. It took me an absolute age to get that out. It just stained the bottom of the. So what the hell's in this? This doesn't happen when I'm at home. And you couldn't get Bisto and all that other stuff over there. So you had to put up with this Knorr cooking. I learned to make gravy properly, but then I had to go to the British shop to buy the OXO cubes, which set me back a mortgage.
Yeah. I was trying to work out like cling film versus tin foil. I have this thing in my head that cling film makes stuff sweat versus the tin foil.
Yeah, if you ever try and leave, when you've made some pastry and you've got to leave it to cool in the fridge.
Yeah.
And then you end up with all these little dots all over it because all of the fat's sort of risen to the surface and being drawn together. So I'm not sure. And my mum said, oh, well, you're only supposed to chill it, you're not supposed to leave it in there. You're only supposed to let it cool. And I was like, yeah, but it still comes out sort of like it has a layer on it or a crust on it because it goes slightly darker.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely convinced that sort of plastic isn't at least slightly porous, so it is letting some air through. Although the number of layers my mum puts on it, I'm not entirely sure if that counts.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that it's actually sealing anything. It's just meant to hold stuff in. Same with when you're putting foil around, air can still get in and circulate around it. So while it might not get fridge or freezer burn, that sort of when meat kind of goes a bit, when you've left your bacon in the fridge and a bit of the packet's still exposed and you've just got a bit of the edge of the bacon goes all hard and you've got to cut that bit off because it's been in the fridge. So
that wouldn't happen there because it's got cling film on it.
So I think it limits the exposure to air, but I don't think that it's perfectly non-porous. I think air can still get in and around it. And like you said, unless it was already chilled when you put it in, like perfectly chilled when you put it in, you're likely to get a little bit of sweat or something in there. And I'd certainly let it completely cool before wrapping anything in cling film. I don't know. Sometimes it comes out a bit plasticky as well. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand. My main gripe with it is all the wastage.
Yeah.
Hiring all that plastic out and hiring all that tin foil out.
We still obviously we get takeaways now and then, and we end up with the third world debt of plastic containers that you can use. So we use them quite a bit.
This is why do I keep them? If I get them, I keep them, them out.
Keep them, wash them.
They're all microwavable. They'll go in the freezer. So I've got a cupboard full of different sized pots from sauces and rice and all of that. Yeah. So if they send me
I think
plastic
I
ones,
do, but
I'll keep them.
I don't microwave them in the container because that's where I think you get the stains from mostly because you're heating it up in there. So I tend to put it in a ceramic bowl and heat it in the ceramic bowl, and then it's easier to wash out the plastic.
It's a fair
But if you're
point.
eating out of it, if you're eating out of that container, then okay, you're creating another
This
process, aren't you?
this is where that came from. Is that I'm looking at it going, save me some washing.
Yeah.
However, if I'm making a meal from it, I'll take it out and put it on a plate or reheat it in a pan or what have you. You know, if it's pasta, if I'm going to eat it straight out the thing, I'll just put the thing in the microwave. But if I'm going to make something with it, it gets hide back in the pan. Or if it's some leftover mince and I'm making some fresh, mix it all together. So yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, an interesting quandary on today. We're getting some decent subjects coming up on these little mind things, aren't we?
I'd be interested to see what everybody else thinks of this whole cling film thing, because like I said, my mum uses meters of the stuff. You know, like it's just going out of fashion. And freezer bags. Don't get me started on all the freezer bags and food bags and things.
Ziplocs. We love our
Ziplocs.
Ziplocs.
Oh, she's got the sticky ones. You know, the ones that you can pull them
Oh
apart
no
and
no
stick them
no
back together. The stickies. Oh, she's got them.
no. Oh, I know which ones you mean,
Tesco's.
but I was of the
Tesco's
zip
best.
ones. Yeah.
Ah, well, that's equivalent to having a plastic tub. It's the bag equivalent of a plastic tub. You
Yeah.
can seal it. You can squeeze all the air out to try and keep it fresh, and then ziplock it to.
And we also have the little clippers. If you've got something that's in a plastic anyway, like bread or something, or muffins or crumpet, like a bit of crumpet, I like a bit of crumpet. So you cut the top off and you have these little clippers, the little clippers, and we put them on the ends to keep them fresh. So
They used to have. It's the last one. Used to have
Yeah.
these things. You might have seen them. I don't think they have them anymore. Where you could keep a can of pop fresh. You know when we had the old ring pulls. You had these things you could clip on the top,
yeah,
and it would seal it and keep the CO2 inside the can, so it would stay fizzy. I haven't seen much of them, but I think I
No.
was taking it a bit too far. Just drink the can of pop, put it in a bottle.
Did you hear the
Seal
story
it
about the Oasis brothers when he turned up at his house and he was drinking champagne? You've heard that one, haven't you?
No.
So this is a true story. So
Right. I thought it was going to be one of them jokes. I thought.
no,
oh,
it's just a funny one. You know, one of them's I don't know which one. One of them's what I would call semi-intelligent, and the other one's not so intelligent.
Yes.
Yeah. So he turned up at the intelligent one's house, and in the fridge he had a bottle of champagne with a fork in the top. And he said, "What's that for?" He said, "It keeps the champagne fresh." Yeah. So the intelligent one went round to the unintelligent one's house a couple of weeks later, and in the fridge he had a bottle of milk with a fork in it, and he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, it keeps the milk fresh." And he was like, "Ugh." No,
We've missed
but
the point.
exactly. Apparently, if you stick a fork or a spoon in your champagne, it affects how quickly the CO2 or the bubbles come out, and it keeps the champagne fresh or something. So that's supposed to be true, but he just took it totally the wrong way. Yeah,
Like it'll work with any bottle.
yeah. He just put it in any bottle, and it happened to be milk. And he was like, "What you doing?" He was like, "Well, you said it keeps stuff fresh." And he went, "No, just the champagne."
Keeps it fizzy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to have a look about that. Actually,
yeah.
I have to have a look at that. I'm just gonna make a note. So, champagne,
Yeah.
champagne.
Supernova. There's a champagne supernova there. Get it?
Why put a fork in champagne?
Because it's champagne supernova.
Aye. Aye, it's all over Google.
Is it?
It's all
Yeah.
over Google. Apparently, there's some science in it.
There you
I
go.
might bore you with it next time.
Why
Because
not?
obviously I'm going to read about it. So, you know what it is. We were aiming for 15. We've done 3 20-minute episodes so far. Anyway, next one is going to be of a similar ilk. I've got a list. I've got 3 questions. I've got 3 questions on it. So until next time, all your comments, questions, arguments, for and against, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.